All right, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying your time at Beyond Borders Berlin so far. My name is Steph, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm super excited to be here today. I am currently the talent lead at Localyze, and I've been at Localyze now for just about a year and a half, so I guess that makes me a dinosaur in the world of startups. And as an expat and a recruiter myself, I'm super excited to welcome our next guest to the stage. His name is Johann Harnoss, and he is the co-founder of Imagine Foundation. Imagine Foundation are a community of expats that help migrate talent to Europe. And we are super excited to have him here today because he has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all things global mobility. Please join me in welcoming Johann Harnoss to the stage. Johann, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. And,
yes, of course.
You've really dialed up the expectations, so I hope I can deliver.
No pressure, no pressure. To kick us off, of course, we want to know more about the beginnings of Imagine Foundation. So it started back out in 2018. Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about Imagine Foundation?
Yeah, sure. So we're an NGO, a gemeinnütziger Verein here in Berlin, Germany. Founded 5 years ago. We're essentially an Ehrenamtsorganisation, so really carried by hundreds of volunteers. Nowadays, we also have a small team that keeps the daily operations running. And it all started actually with a friend of mine working with the integration of lots of refugees coming 2015 and 16. I also got involved, and I both saw that there was a big consensus in Germany, like integration is something very important, and everybody's nodding, and actually foundations also give money to that. But then when I said, yeah, but look, there are millions of other people who want to come to Germany, and look at the demographics, look at the Middle East, look at Africa, millions of people will come. People got really scared, right? But at the same time, I thought, what if we could build bridges? Right? From places like Egypt, Syria, Afghanistan, all of these places we work in, we build bridges and help people who are still in their countries to understand the German and European job market and find jobs here. And through helping them find jobs, we can help them move legally and safely to Germany. So that's it in a nutshell. I can go into many details if needed.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. And we learned earlier that there's been some changes to the German immigration law. Mm-hmm. Could you share a little bit about what that means for us? What does that mean for how global mobility to Germany is going to be changing?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that question also helps me explain a bit what we do. Right? So 5 years ago, and it's still the case today, as you know, if you want to get an EU blue card, typically you need to show that you have a job offer, right? But how do you get a job if you're in Cairo or Karachi or anywhere else? You can do it digitally with many of the companies that you represent, and I'm sure you do this on a near daily basis, but lots of other German companies obviously don't do that, right? And so from the talent perspective, it's also very hard to know, where should you apply, who are the cool companies that are already super global, and which other companies aren't, right? And at the same time, how do you communicate not just your hard skills, but also your softer skills? And so what we saw is that there's amazing talent everywhere globally. We say, talent is universal, opportunity is not. We change that, and it can help talents a lot if you would teach them a little bit, communication skills. You teach them a little bit about, how to make your LinkedIn profile just a bit more professional. And all of these little things can really make a meaningful difference. And we have many stories of people who say, hey, Johann, thanks. After I completed your program, just took a couple of days, literally, and recruiters hit me up on LinkedIn. Now, I don't know if that was a coincidence. I don't know if it was because they got connected to my team and myself, whatever the story was, but we can clearly see that we helped hundreds of people get hired, and I think by now it's about 600, 700 people, if you count the families that we've helped move out of these places to Europe.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. Speaking from my personal experience, when I was applying for jobs in Germany, I think I applied for about 200 positions. And only when I started putting, in possession of a spousal visa at the top of my CV, that was the only time I actually started having people look at it. Because at the time I was living in Cape Town and moving to Germany. So is it these little nuances that you've been kind of teaching people to update when it comes to their CV, their profile, how they're presenting themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. And on the one hand, you would think maybe even as recruiters, ideally you look past that, right? But at the same time, we're all human beings, and it really seems to be the case that if you help people also understand, what does a typical recruiting process look like? Your first round chat with a recruiter, what questions do they have in mind? Like, how do you talk to those people, right? All of these things we think make a difference. We have an app where people can find jobs that we curate. And crucially, and I haven't shared that yet, we have a program and then people meet their coach, right? So we have these hundreds of volunteers. We make it really fun and quite nice for people to volunteer, so you don't have to deal with any BS and stuff. All you do is you tell us when you're available, and then you get half an hour coachings into your calendar. I think some people have done more than 200 of these. You meet people from all around the world, you can give something back.
Awesome, that's incredible. I'd love to learn more about these coaches. I'm curious, are there anything that you feel maybe some blockers that maybe companies have in their process, in their hiring process, that maybe prevents them from hiring these kinds of talents?
Yeah. Maybe two things come to mind. First of all, I think there are so many companies not represented here for whom it's still just a big cultural challenge, to hire people from abroad, people they may not be able to see live, people who speak different languages. And, when we started our Imagine Ukraine project, everybody was like, yeah, I want to hire some Ukrainian refugees. And then if they're like a senior Java developer who also has C1 level German, then we're really open to it. Yeah. And I've literally heard that. I see some people laughing in the room, so it resonates. I'm sure you have conversations with your tech teams and many others in your companies on changing that. Sometimes it requires changing roles, right? So let's make it really graphic. This insurance company said, yeah, we get it, IT folks, English is sort of the de facto standard, but they need to be able to talk to 20 different teams within our insurance company, and they only speak German, right? But so obviously it would be nice if you could cut the role differently so that you have somebody doing more of the communication work and somebody else doing more of the hardcore coding work. Yeah? And so that would be one recommendation. And the other one is, sometimes I was even surprised that some people get hired that I thought maybe wouldn't get hired. Yeah? And I partly based that on the level of English. I thought, sometimes we had fellows getting hired who had great tech skills. So we're focusing a bit on tech, but we're also expanding that now. But had really not that great English, to be really frank, right? Up to the point where you'd say, hey, it's sort of making communication difficult. And I've seen many companies see past that, saying, we've done it before, we know just 2 months in, their English will be pretty fine, and they sort of put a bet on these types of people, and I think that's a good practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's all these sorts of different, skills that we feel, might be transferable. It might look different in a different company. It might look different in a different country. I'm curious, what do you think people or talent that come from different countries feel they wished our talent teams knew over here on this side?
So they don't always say it, but I think they should, it would be good for the talents if more companies knew about how these visa processes work, right? And I think that's why Localyze is doing such a tremendously valuable job, right? Because you're taking the fear out of these processes by saying, we've done it before hundreds of times, we can tell you the difference between the embassy in Ghana and the one in Cairo, basically taking away all of these fears that companies have, irrational fears, but nevertheless worries, is something that is incredibly valuable, that talents benefit from. Yeah. I know I did not fully answer your question, but it was important for me to say that.
I think it's a very good point, and it's something I've faced quite often in my role. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about what it means to hire someone from another country, keeping in mind that there's a 3-month termination in most companies, so you're waiting 3 months for talent that is here. So if it's going to take a couple of weeks to hire someone outside of Germany, it's sometimes even quicker than that 3-month termination. So it's little things like that.
Indeed, and so that's an educational job that you sometimes have to do with companies intending to hire, right? That waiting for 3 months, like they would always wait 3 months, right? Couldn't agree more.
What else do you think teams can do to look at hiring differently?
Well, that's a big question. I think I've said some of the things, right? Cutting roles differently, hiring for potential. Maybe another mistake sometimes I see is that companies say, "Oh yeah, okay, we're convinced now. Let me hire one person from abroad," right? And then they're increasingly isolated. Yeah. So the advice that we give, for example, to this insurance company would be to say, "Look, have a first team switch to English, find a team lead who is behind this, who supports it also emotionally and from a Haltungsperspective, from a values perspective, and then you have a first nucleus of people that attract others from abroad."
Yeah. So kind of setting the standard with 1 or 2 people. I was chatting to a few people earlier, and we noticed that sometimes it's that one relocation that went wrong that tends to change the leaders' minds.
Yeah.
What can we do to convince them that this one is not the norm?
Yeah, I think the data that lots of providers, including Localyze, can bring, right? This message, yeah, you had a bad experience with Nigerian, sorry, don't get me wrong, with people trying to get a visa from the German embassy in Nigeria. But it's more of an issue with the German embassy in Nigeria than it's an issue that is uniformly the case. Yeah? And I chose Nigeria purposefully because I've talked to people in that embassy, and they also agree that theirs may not be the best run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. And I mean, then it kind of paints this paintbrush picture of, this is the norm, this is what happens. Yeah. Could you perhaps tell us about, on the brighter side, a success story that you've had?
Yeah, and so it actually ties to what I just said. Yes, on average, it might be difficult to get some folks out of some countries where the embassies are, understaffed and maybe not that well run. Don't quote me. But again, what we've seen time and again is that folks who have relationships to those embassies, the Localyze and the others in this world, they can really make a difference, right? So they know who to call, how to pitch a certain email. And so a story here is we had somebody out of Afghanistan who got out of the country once the Taliban took over, and he went to Iran. And the sad story is that somehow the German embassies in Tehran and the one in Islamabad decided that only Islamabad is in charge of all of the Afghans. So if you were an Afghan trying to get a work visa for Germany, it was essentially impossible if you were in Iran, unless you've lived there for 6 months. Yeah, and so it's a story of Kazem and his wife. Kazem is a software engineer. He now works in a company here in Germany, and it was very, very hard for him to get out of Iran and get to Germany. Meanwhile, his friend got a job with a company in the UK and found it incredibly easy, and after 3 weeks he was in the UK, right? So you really had this left and right difference between how Germany sometimes handles things and the UK does. But the positive story is the employer waited. So this is actually awesome. Like, I know some employers who actually wait longer than maybe even I would wait sometimes. 9 months or maybe even longer, and really keep believing, keep supporting the people. In particular, when they come out of Afghanistan, I've heard many, many different stories. And I find that really moving, to be honest. So thanks to everybody who does that.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. It's all a waiting game, right? There's different timelines. Things are changing constantly. And the work you and your team are doing is incredible. What are some of the challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so initially I thought that we would get a lot of shitstorms, like saying, oh, we're fostering migration and it's a good thing. There was just a few of those, but not too many. So first of all, I really got to say what I learned from it, that you can do stuff in this world. You can, if you have an idea, actually make a small difference. So I found it very empowering for myself. I mean, for full background, I'm also a consultant, so one of those folks who create nice-looking slides but may not directly engage in getting stuff done. And so, frankly, I also wanted to do it to prove it to myself that it's possible with a group of people to change something.
That's really incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. Just before we head into a Q&A, I'm curious. Earlier today, we were talking a lot about challenges, about changing mindsets. What is your opinion on what we need to do as a country to be able to change that mindset, to be able to be more open to welcoming people from all over the world?
Yeah. One thing that I'd like to say is the following, that is, I think the standard way of sometimes politically talking about immigrants, also highly skilled immigrants, is we need them, right? We have the Fachkräftemangel and other long words that sort of tell the average German that, again, don't quote me, but it's a bit of a story of you may like them or not, but you need them, right? So in your own self-interest, like who takes care of you once you get older? And I think Bertelsmann Foundation pioneered it and was very successful, right? They came up with it like 10 years ago, and they also have this target of net migration 400,000 that Germany needs. So I think that has helped a lot, but at the same time, it's also not an argument that really opens people's hearts and minds, right? So it comes through need. It effectively says, hey, yeah, you're a bit deficient because you're too few Germans, right? So something wrong with you, and that's why you need others. And so I think in your own companies, you see, you hire from abroad partly because out of a need, but partly also because you see it builds better companies, it builds different, maybe more vibrant cultures. I think I shared that story yesterday with you, right? That sometimes, or maybe not, sorry. Anyways, you know this feeling when you have a team speaking in German among Germans and it's a bit stiff and, Sie and Herr and so on. And then somebody else comes in who may not speak German, and the team switches to English, right? And suddenly you're like on a first-name basis, and it's a bit more relaxed and more dynamic, maybe more agile. And so that really nicely shows that the culture changes if you change the mix, and I fundamentally believe it changes for the better.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been really, really lovely to hear your insights.